From reading the statement that I just passed out to you, what do you think those statements show or mean to the student?
Not a lot, because they're not very specific.
That's one thing for sure. But as it might relate to what I just passed out.
When it's not the day or smart, it's what they did was good. So like good job or nice work or something, it's what they produced was good, but not necessarily themselves. So like it could be a matter of luck, you know, like, I mean, the kid might think that, well, I got lucky this time and I might produce something that was worthy of praise, and not that they were worthy of praise.
An example for me is that when, I taught art for 12 years at the high school, and junior and senior high too, and the kids go, oh, well, I'm not artistic, and I always scored the kids and praised them on their effort in doing the art project and not necessarily, because I had some very artistic students, and you couldn't say, well, she's always going to get an A because Anna was so good, and Bert was not going to. It was just the effort put into it, and so I did a lot of praising for kids and I had amazing arts, what they contributed and what their artwork was, and many of them were not that artistic. It was just the effort and things that went into it and believing in themselves.
I think that's the hardest thing about praise is I caught myself the other day because my students were doing a writing assignment, and they worked so hard, every single one, but I caught myself, the one that the writing was the best, I was like, oh my gosh, my reaction, I couldn't help it, but I'm like, that's awesome. And then I read the other one, and as my student was like, what about mine, Miss Fletcher? And I'm like, that's so good too, and you couldn't help it because it wasn't that striking as the best one was obvious, and it's so hard because you're trying to give praise to all of them because they try so hard, but then there's you catch yourself because there's some that are obviously that much better, and it's hard. You feel bad for the kiddos because they're all trying hard. I don't know, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know, but I just noticed that. Yeah. And then you watch the kiddo's face who saw your reaction being different than the really great reaction, and you watch them take it all in, and
they don't give it much stock because they realize that you're like an afterthought, like the second
and
one was
good
like
too.
Oh yeah, great, so I'm not as good as the first student.
Yep, and they're hoping that they crave that reaction, that look how great. So, I don't know.
Smart is a nebulous term, moreover, than you worked hard. One is abstract and one is really concrete.
One of the teachers at the high school, the math teacher, he's really, really good, surprisingly, because math is there's so much work, like workload is so high, but he's really, really good at grading or judging my students based on what they produce instead of compared to everyone else. And I think that's really good for them. Like if my student is one of my students is able to do like 4 problems per assignment, he'll grade him on those 4, and if he gets, all of them right, he'll get 100%, as opposed to 4 out of 20, which if the whole assignment was 20. And I think that helps my student because he doesn't feel like, he's not completing the whole assignment. So what he did, he's graded on what he did, so he feels, I don't know if I'm explaining it right. Like what he's
I think you're getting around what is stated on that last piece of paper that I handed out to you, that it's more important to focus our praise on the amount of work and effort that was put into it than it is to put it on just how good the work is. Because, as we talked before, some kids do have an innate ability to do math better than other students, or have a better ability to write better, or read faster, or one of those things. And if we're only praising the work that's produced, then what we're doing is saying, okay, we're I guess reinforcing that idea that intelligence is innate, and it can't grow. In which most of you seem to think that that's not true. That that there's something to it, but it's not the whole thing. But there is a whole lot to the other side of it. That their environment and their hard work and their learning, influenced by teachers and that sort of thing, can change that, quote, intelligence. And so how we react to that makes a big difference, and what we praise.
Well, it's true because we took kiddos that exceeded the benchmark. We took them to like a reward for exceeding. And when you asked them, they were like, "Oh yeah, I think it's because I exceeded the test." But what we found too is that when kids exceed, the next time they take the test, and they don't have to for the statewide, but they don't try as hard because they got there and they're like, "I'm just smart. I just am because I'm smart." But when it just seems like their motivation goes down because they've already reached it, and I just am smart, and it's good to feel smart, but it's almost like they don't then apply or try hard because they've reached that smart level, and I just am, and so I don't know. I just think that effort-wise and motivation-wise, when you praise the working hard aspect of it, it just helps everyone try to get there.
Well,